Why do you like Vue, and what about Vue application development speaks to you?
So, I mean, to be boring, I think basically all of these different programming tools and languages and frameworks are just tools in a toolbox. And so, you know, we're aspiring to be artists and craftspeople, and so using one versus the other is a great thing to talk about. A bad thing to make enemies. Why I like Vue, I think obviously there's the historical reason, why I picked it in the first place, but why I like it now, and why I've chosen it time and time again on lots of different projects. It's not the only thing I work in, but I really like how Vue mirrors the primitive languages of web. So things like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are sort of mirrored in a single file component in Vue. So again, so for example, when I had an agency onboarding a new developer who hadn't used Vue or React or any framework, I could tell them to write HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and literally there would be a little bit more work required. So we could wire up the HTML they wrote and simplify it, make it actually clearer. But basically, what they wrote would work. It would be the same thing, and that's a great immediate reduction of friction. And also the other way, someone who's working in Vue can go back, I think, to use some of those things. So I think you see a sort of tendency in Vue developers, for example, to pick not CSS and JS frameworks, but frameworks that just output CSS. And there's this sort of feeling like we want to go back to these sort of three core primitives of the web. And I really like that. I think that feels nice to me. It's how I like to think. I think there are other really nice things about Vue in terms of how the framework works. I like the fact that it's not a sort of perpetual re-render cycle. I like the fact that you have component instances. I really like the new composable architecture. I also really like the community. So the Vue community is a really positive and friendly one. And it's very international. So you have people using Vue all over the world. And I think maybe that's been the case from the very beginning. And again, this is the kind of thing that just happens by sort of historical accident in terms of who picks up something and where the groups of keen users ended up being in the early days. But yeah, the Vue community is it's just lovely. And because it's not the biggest community, obviously the React gets that particular gold star. But because Vue isn't the biggest community, it's also therefore a little bit closer knit. And so there's a feeling of, we're friends here. I'm not, by the way, saying any of this is not true of other groups, but there's definitely things I like about Vue.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the community point because, while React is really siloed in companies and meeting companies' needs, Vue isn't really attached to a company. It's more of like an open source collaboration between a lot of people.
I think it's pioneered Evan's sort of governance model for Vue and trying to figure out how that is sustainable. Has sort of shaped how other open source projects also have sort of sought to make themselves sustainable. And yes, he's not sought to commercialize it. I'm sure if Evan had chosen to, he could have made Vue probably much more profitable in some ways, but probably also lost this feeling of being a community project. Because you're right, Vue there is no company that it's associated with. Nobody has hired Evan. I'm sure he wouldn't have any difficulty with that if he wanted to. But Vue has kept its independence and has kept it sort of feel like this is a project, of the people, for the people, by the people. So it is a nice.
Yeah, when I first sort of getting in the framework scene, I learned a little bit about React, and I had the sort of like quintessential turn off of JSX that a lot of people had in the early days of React. And I sort of got into Vue because of the template file, the single file components. Also, that was for me at the time, working with designers who could prototype everything in HTML, JavaScript, CSS, is like, I could say, hey, here's the general format, and the same thing. They'd give me the file, and I could make that a component really easily. And then when I tried to talk to like a React component, they were like, what is this shit? like, don't show me this. So when I moved to New York, I was actually helped organize the Vue.js NYC meetup for a while, and it is such a great community. I think, to another point of what you said, the internationalization, in a large part, they had translations in their docs really, really, really early on. I think earlier than a lot of frameworks were really doing that. So that, and the good docs, and the just comprehensive ecosystem out of the box, all those things were huge for Vue.
Yeah, and I think there are some other things too. I mean, you see there's often a chosen way path. So there's a single Vue router. There was Vuex, a single store. Not that these things are universal, but even now, for example, there's Pinya, which is the successor to Vuex, but it's not the only one. There's Harlem, for example. Vuex still works. But there is this kind of blessed path that there's this sort of first party. It works. It fits in with the ecosystem. You can choose other things, but you don't have to be paralyzed by choice when you're starting a new project. And that is I think, talking about friction, that is one of the key things I think that keeps developers building quickly. And I think is one of the reasons Tailwind, for example, is such a loved choice, that people just don't have to make choices. They don't have to, how are we going to set up the CSS tokens for this project? Oh, you're new? Okay, well, let's spend some time familiarizing you with the unique way we do things here. But you don't have that anymore. So, Tailwind you have a sort of easier path in. And I think you have that by default with Vue because of the fact that the routing and the state management, and there are lots of other libraries as well that fall into that kind of category. Where it's a sort of, you have choice, but if you're not looking to do something different, there is a well paved road going down whatever path you want to take.